Well, good evening, everyone, and we're so excited and welcome to Tea Time Tuesday. We are back for another special Tea Time Tuesday here at the Renewal Center. So we are so excited, and we want to invite everyone to go and invite your friends, invite your family. Go get your tea. I know we have our tea. Go get your journals. We're going to be spending some time today with our renewal practices. And I just want to say, we all want to say, welcome to our Tea Time community. Welcome, Tea Timers. We hope you had a great Tuesday. I know I've had a great Tuesday. We all had a great Tuesday. And we are so excited about this evening. So go ahead and share this on your social media platforms. We're streaming live over there on YouTube as well. So if you're used to watching us on YouTube, go over there, like and subscribe, and make sure you share that broadcast as well so we can get some more viewers. And so excited today. We have some great renewal practices in store. And as you know, we are in the month of March. We're kind of leading out of the month of March, but we're still taking the time to acknowledge National Women's History Month. And we're so grateful and thankful for all of the contributions that women have made to society, to the communities that we live in, and to the world. And then also, as you saw earlier, we were saying that this is National Reading Month. So, we are just celebrating all the different genres of written literature. Hope that you are doing that this month, finding a special read or a special book that really inspires you. So we're so excited about that. We want to welcome my dad out there. There's Dr. Brown. Good to see you. We're glad you're joining us. And those of you that are taking the time to join us, once again, please go ahead, like and share this broadcast, because we want to get everyone involved in our dialogue tonight. And so, as we usually do, we're going to start off with our tea of the week. We're going to go ahead and start off with that. We don't have a book of the week today, but we're going to start off with our tea of the week, which is rose tea. And, we're kind of circling back with some of our teas. I really enjoy this type of tea. Rose tea is an herbal tea that originated in China, the Middle East, Northern Africa, and Europe. And so it's a very aromatic tea, which derives from the dried leaves and the petals of the rose bush. It's a very flavorful, soothing, and refreshing tea. And as you can imagine, I know it's so fragrant. And you can steep it just like any other tea, add your sweetener of choice, and enjoy it. Rose tea. I know I love rose tea. So I'm going to move away from the introduction, and we're going to just take our time to pause, to stop like we always do, and to build resilience. And that's through locating ourselves. And so Hope T. Melton is going to take us into our time of locating ourselves tonight.
All right, sorry about that. So mute. Welcome everyone to tea time this evening. Hello, Carmela. Hello, Patrick. Hello, everyone out there, and welcome. And we're getting ready to enter into our locate yourself. And for those who are new to our tea time, this is a moment where we take to pause, reset, and just kind of be able to build resilience and kind of locate ourselves and center ourselves. So what we want to do is just for a moment, we just want to be able, if you can just relax and sit up straight, but relax your shoulders and just begin to sit up straight and relax your shoulders, relax your hands. If you're in a quiet place, we're just going to take that time and just begin to just breathe, and just let's close our eyes for a moment and begin to breathe and begin to connect. All right. All right. Isn't that wonderful to be able to take our time, locate ourselves? Doesn't that feel great after your day of just, working or whatever that you've experienced today? Just taking the time. It's nothing but just taking our time, giving us a moment to pause, reset as we enter into this tea time, a moment to just relax and breathe and just locate where we are and settle ourselves, right? So this is a great experience. All right. So again, we're going to go ahead and move on with our tea time this evening. And we're excited about it. Again, I hope that you guys have your notebook, your tea time journal, and that you're sharing this broadcast. Remember to like and share. Join us over on YouTube as we begin to go into our tea time for tonight.
Thank you so much, Hope and Carmela. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Tea Time Tuesday again. This is exciting time to refresh ourselves, pause, and to increase our resilience. So, hopefully, you are settled wherever you are. I want you to please share with us what is your tea that you're drinking this evening. Am. I have ginger this evening, a nice robust ginger tea, and so again that is really relaxing for me. The ginger smell, the ginger taste, it's very cleansing as well. So after my hustle and bustle for my day, with all of my doctoral studies and residency coming up and things like that, taking this pause this evening is incredibly important for me to absolutely connect with you all, but also connect and center myself. So I'm enjoying my tea. I'm just going to just ease into our renewal practice. What about you all? What's going on your end this evening?
Well, I'm having English breakfast tea with some cream. I just love that smooth taste. And
Mhm.
so it's just, like you said, it's just really just segueing into the day, into this evening, just kind of settling in. And so I'm enjoying my tea. I really am. It's nice and hot, and I'm ready to enjoy our moment.
All
Constant
right.
comment tea. Okay. All right.
All right.
Apple cinnamon. All right. All right. Hope,
Ooh.
what about you?
All right. So that's one of my favorite apple cinnamon that I saw. I have a lot of apple cinnamon tea. But
Mm.
tonight I am having my favorite tea, which is
Earl.
Earl Grey. And there's time my
All right.
hibiscus, which is my second, but this is my Earl Grey. This is my go-to. This is the one I'm comfortable with. Nice, strong hints, kind of have a robust boldness to it. So this is what I like. So to my
Thank you. Everybody else, please share with us. If you're out there, we ask that you please like and share. Let us know what tea that you have this evening. This is our weekly tea time, and we have our special tea time is always on the fourth Tuesdays. At least we try to, and what we engage during that time. So we do it in the evening. Generally, we're in the afternoon. So if you haven't caught us before, you can always reach us first, second, and third Tuesdays at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. So we're doing this evening. So I want to also encourage you, for those of you that are connecting with the Renewal Center for the first time here at Tea Time Tuesday, we are located in Concord, North Carolina, on location, the historic district, 159 Church Street. So if you are ever in the Charlotte Concord area, please stop by. We have a thought room, which is full of over 300 plus books. We have an action room for planning. We have an art and voice room, really about creativity, and
Mhm.
our cafe. Come and have tea, sit out on the porch, especially now that it's getting warmer. You can just really come in, and it's a respite for you. It's a place of hospitality. We want you to come be a part of what we're doing here in the Renewal Center. So I have an
Mhm.
interesting renewal practice today. So if you're out there, let me know that you're ready. Please hashtag me, I am renewal. Place that in the comments. Please like and share. Let's get the likes up. Let's get the shares up. Let's get the subscriptions up on our YouTube channel. Please, you can follow us over there as well. And so I'd like for you, if you will, let me know that you're there by just hashtagging I am renewal. Go ahead and place that in the comments out there. Audience, let us know, Tea Timers, that you're connecting with us. And hopefully you have your journal. You're in a calm place, because it's about really setting that space to refresh and renew yourself. All right, yeah, they're coming in. Michelle, hello. I am renewal. Thank you so much. Anybody else, let us know that you're there with
Right.
us so that we can get the renewal practices started. I love the renewal practices. My life has been changed because of it. It's improved. And aware. Charlisa, thank you so much. I am Renewal. Let us know that you're there today, renewing, because part of this increasing resilience is how we connect with each other. That's part of Renewal as well. So want to ensure that we're able to connect. My focus for today in our community time of Renewal is a focus on, can you change who you are? Can you change who you are? And so what we're going to do today is we're going to focus on questions, and then we're going to ponder the questions as a renewal practice, and then we'll answer those questions. So this is about us fostering resilience. This is also about you engaging in your own transformation. So I want you to consider the stage this evening, and our renewal practice is about, can you change who you are? Now, this is a yes or no close-ended question. So if you say yes, then it'll be interesting. If you say no, then it'll be interesting answers. Either way, it's not about right or wrong. It's about engaging in life and in transformation. And so it's important that we're able to think through this, reflect through this practice, because I believe most of us want to see transformation or some type of evolution in our lives and some area of growth. And so one of the key things we want to focus on today is about, can you change who you are? Now, I want to start out with this. And I'd like to hear from your audience, your thoughts on this about habits. We are what we repeatedly do. Is the answer yes or no, or yes and no? And I want you to answer, why is it yes, or why is it no, or why is it both? Again, we are what we repeatedly do. It's a statement. So with that quote or that statement, is the answer yes or no, or is your answer yes and no? And then give us a reason why you answered what you answered. And so I'd like you to give me your answer so we can engage in your responses as well and say, well, why are we starting out with habits? Because if we're going to talk about, can you change who you are, it all starts with what I do habitually. What I do habitually. Now, I have a habit of coming to tea time every Tuesday. That is now a habit in my life. My mind is wired on Tuesday at noon. I am stopping and pausing, and I'm going to go to tea time. That is part of who I am. Matter of fact, it's like that all the time consistently. I even remember sometimes in work, people want to have working sessions where they're eating lunch and going through things quickly. I'm like, no, that's my time for me. That is a habit. So for me, I have an answer to that, but I'd like to hear from you first, audience. So if you can let us know what your thoughts are as it relates to, we are what we repeatedly do. The first answer would be yes or no, and the second answer would be yes and no. So Hope, what are your thoughts on that? Mel, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that is a very... Go ahead, Carmela.
Okay, well, I was just thinking about that poem, but I can't recite every bit of the poem. You guys know the phrase is, be careful what you think, because what you think will lead to, and then it all says your habits will eventually form your character. Okay, yes. So it was going towards that. But I say yes and no. What the reason I say yes is because something that we do over time, repetition, and I'm speaking of me, is almost developing a routine. And as I develop a routine, it's like my expectation is to continue doing what that is. And it's almost like you're building things by default. After a while, it becomes default. Mm-hmm. And so the reason I say no is because you can change things that you see that doesn't measure up to what you need to be doing. I'm referring to me. So over time, if I'm seeing that this is something that isn't fruitful, then then you can kind of tweak that and say, well, no, I don't have to let that become build something that's going to develop into something that I don't want it to develop into, because you can go to the positive and the negative with repeatedly doing what you're doing as a habit. Mm-hmm. I think I'm trying to, y'all understand what I'm going with that.
Sense. Yeah, it makes sense, because the goal is to, whatever we answer, that's authentic. And I thank you for sharing that. Very good. Hope, I'm going to come back to you real quick. I want to hear what the audience has to say here. Nichelle says, Yes and no. So our answer is yes and no. Yes, part of what we do repeatedly is connected to who we are created to be. No, some of what we do repeated is learned behavior and mimicking what we see and hear in our environment as normal. All
Oh,
right,
that's
Michelle,
good.
thank you for sharing that. Hope, your thoughts.
Well, I'll say yes and no. I think that as we, for I'm speaking for myself, we have certain habits that we do. Like you said, it's tea time, so you have that time set aside for tea time. Or have my son, time set aside for work, or certain things that I do repetitively. That's a part of my life. And
Mhm.
then for no, I'll say just because at any time or any point, things can change. And because of the continued of who I am, and I'm continuing to evolve in understanding who I am, things can change in a positive way or negative way depending on the mindset of my decisions that I'm making. Right. So, that we're continuing people of, learning and growing and evolving. And as I say, continuing to dig deep, and as you continue to do this, you begin to uncover and discover more of who you am, which will bring an implementation of change that will, for so to bring forth change in your life that may, change up some habits or some things that you do because you're finding out more about who you are.
Mhm.
So that's my view.
Mm, thank
That's
you.
good.
Just want to bring the audience back in again. What are your thoughts
Mhm.
on this quote? We are what we repeatedly do. First answer, yes or no. Second answer, yes and no. And then if you can explain to us why you chose that answer. Because today's focus again is, can you change who you are? As a renewal practice, I think it's important that we start out with this question, because based upon our questions, many times will be how our lives will begin to evolve. We grow many times based upon questions, not necessarily just answers. And so it's important that we ponder. It's important that we step back. It's important that we reflect. And so for me, I thought about yes and no in the sense that, yes, I am repeatedly making decisions. I have a certain pattern about my life. And so, because of a certain pattern or a certain cycle in my life, yes, I can answer yes to that because, again, I'm repeatedly what I do. I'm constantly doing something. I'm constantly repeating. I have a certain decision making. There's a quote that says, "We make our choices, and our choices make us."
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, um,
That's good.
then on the other end, I say no to this because I know that I can change.
Mhm.
So there's a hope on the other side that I can start making different decisions or stop making different decisions. And then as a result of that, then I evolve who I am. I know that I can be better than where I am right now. I can expand beyond where I am. So that's important. Dr. Paul Brown, hey, Dad, good to have you on this evening. For me, he says, for me, change is associated with growth. So I say yes and no. Otherwise, one may remain stagnant. Right. And we know what happens with stagnant water. When water is stagnant, it really is because it's not moving, it's not flowing. There's an input, but there's that output, and so it's important. So thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that. Also, it says no because there are certain elements physically and medically that are hard and fast. So there are scientific things because no things that are hard and fast. Thank you for sharing that. Very, very important answers to our questions today. So again, we're focusing on, can you change who you are as a renewal practice? And I wanted to bring up something else about our habits and why it's important for us to be able to look at what we habitually do, how we habitually talk, our style of communication, our mode of communication. Sometimes we can be so into a particular flow of how we are, how we communicate, what we do in our decisions, we don't even notice it because it's automatic. It's just part of how we are. And so we need to be able to pause. That's what tea time is
Yeah.
for. Because when
Mhm.
you pause, you start noticing. When you pause, you start being aware. And so one thing about that is the brain does not comprehend habit loosely. The more we repeat a behavior that affords us pleasure or comfort, the more defined become the neural pathways activated by that behavior. So in essence, if you're at a fair, and how many of you go to state fairs, you've been to certain amusement parks, if you start in a winning streak on a game, your brain is responding to the reward. If you're trying to get that big, and you just keep going back at it. And so the brain doesn't take habits loosely. It doesn't take habits loosely. Doesn't matter what the decision is. It doesn't loosely just say, oh, that's just a habit, because the brain is going to reward you with a certain, I would say a certain chemical that's going to release, oh, I like this, the result of this habit. And so as a result of that, we don't see how constructive or conversely destructive that can be. So it's important that we're looking at this from a perspective that the neural pathways are activated by that behavior. Let's meditate on that one. Let's really think about that. My mind, my neural pathways are like a road. I used to go out into the woods and play around a lot when I was a kid. And there's certain pathways. We walk so much that there's a path through certain lawns and through the woods. And we know how to get there. That's how the brain is when it becomes connected to a habit. And it's just a certain pathway that starts being activated because of our habits. So we're pausing here today in our tea time as a renewal practice to think about this question regarding our habits. Charlisa says, yes and no. I can become a creature of habit, and then I can become flexible enough to make the necessary changes when needed. Thank you for sharing that. So it's interesting, all the different answers that are coming in regarding yes and no. And I think it's important that we look at this just through that lens. Hey, how are we developing habits? How are we making decisions? Because ultimately, most of us want to evolve, and sometimes we don't. And so it's important that we take some time. If we're going to experience renewal and we're going to experience increasing resilience and refreshing ourselves, let's take a step back and look at our habits. So I just want to just pause here for a moment. What thoughts do you have, audience, about that? Mel, Hope, any thoughts on that exercise?
Well, I think the engagement has been great. The answers have been great. I think the question that has posed is thought provoking as well, to kind of engage and understand where we are. It's also encouraging as well, because sometimes we can think that things may not change, and so so this is really a good tea time, and really a good question that's been posed for me that provoked thought for me as to where I am, and even thinking about not just changing, but how I want to change and how am I going to change as well. So I understand that we have things that are that we do daily, that's each and every day, and then we have areas that are subject to change. Things are subject to shift and change.
Absolutely.
So that's what I wanted to share regarding that.
Melanie, thoughts on that?
I was just thinking, I said, I like that question, the first question that you asked. I'm going to address the first question, because it puts us in a position to determine which direction we're going to go in. And according to what is necessary and what we need, it brings us to self-awareness. I wrote down a few things. What should we keep doing and what we might want to tweak? But really what got me was the second phrase. And I had to sit with that, because I was thinking that we're moved by stimuli. That's what I was getting out of that. We're moved by stimuli. And, that could be something that, like you said, you just keep going, and it's just, you keep fostering whatever that is, that stimuli. And it could lead us in which direction, we may not want to go in, or we may not want to watch what's driving us. And so I like that, to help us make the right decision, because we could continue on that pathway with that stimuli continually till that habit does become a part of us. a part of our character or part of our decision making, the process of how we make decisions. So I like that.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. I want to use this next few moments. I have 4 questions that I like to coach the audience on this evening. And I want you to think about this as it relates to your job, your business, your profession, or your personal life. So this is a cross-functional, cross-spectrum applicable in any context of how you change and why change should take place. Of course, in my book, Change Matters, we discuss more of this. But I wanted to draw from this from a perspective of how we can begin to really engage in looking at what we do and why we do what we do. Michelle's going to read this here. Says, I remember when I began school as a child and teachers making left-handed children shift their pencils to the right. My parents did not force me to use my right hand and made it known to my teachers not to either. And then it says the other children eventually became right-handers. Well, Michelle, I'm a left-hander as well, dominant left, but I use both at this point. But again, I understand what you mean because of certain cultural demands or certain other standards. I began to realize when I used to write the number 2 pencils and things like that, because we write from left to right, I used to smear my paper. I had to learn how to kind of adjust sometimes. So you're right. It's interesting the different experiences we have even from that perspective. So can I coach y'all today? Let's consider this renewal practice as renewal coaching this evening. All right. Renewal. So again, let's focus on that. Kashmir says, again, I changed because what I've been doing isn't working. So it could be the definition of insanity. I changed because I asked God to change me. Sometimes it's harder than others. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Absolutely. Please appreciate that transparency. And yes, the smear for us lefties. Okay.
Is it really like that?
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it's real. I remember because I even bought a special number 2 paper and the loose leaf and you're writing. And back then, when you would write, because you're writing left to right, sometimes my hand would be on the paper and it would actually smear what I wrote. And so I had to learn how to adjust, because I know nowadays probably don't teach handwriting. I don't know what they teach in school nowadays as it relates to script and cursive, but nonetheless, that's what used to take place. I'll never forget those times, because you were writing on those big lines and it was smearing all over the place. All right. My first renewal practice question this evening: can we direct change? Can we consciously create ourselves? Now, I want you to take some time and really process this and think about this personally, think about this professionally. Because asking this question generates certain perspectives automatically. Well, yeah, I can direct change. I'm the master of my fate, captain of my soul. Or can we consciously create ourselves? Like, I knowingly can become new. I knowingly can create something different and unique in my life. So pause here for a moment before you say yes and no, yes or no, or a hard no or a hard yes, and think through this question. Can we direct change? Can we consciously create ourselves? Now, I want you to think about that, because change is a process by which the future invades our lives, Alvin Toffler says. So let's think about this from a perspective of conscious, the question in my thought process: can I direct change? And I'm asking this question because if I say yes, then that means I now take ownership over my transformation. If I say yes, I can direct change. I can create change consciously. I can say no because I'm open to being pliable to something else impacting me to produce change. Both are critical. Both are important. But I think it's important that we become aware of that in terms of how we work on ourselves and how we work with other people collaboratively, in synergy, in sync. So let's take a step back and think through this from a project perspective when you're working with someone. and you with someone and they're linear, this is how they make decisions, they're not going to change. I've been doing this way the majority of my life. This is how it is. It's incredibly difficult to be able to work with someone like that. But nonetheless, just because there are disagreements within the context of projects does not mean that we cannot collaborate or transform the environment. Because disagreement or different perspectives, that's part of our development journey. That's part of us growing and evolving as human beings. And so I want you to think about this as a renewal practice as it relates to your development. Think about, can I direct change? And with that in mind, I want you to ask yourself, what change do I need to direct? What change do I need to direct? What do I consciously need to create? I thought about that. And so as you're thinking about this, I want you to just, as you're out there, folks, I know that you're probably thinking and doing the renewal practice right now. I want you to pause and put some of your answers in the comments, your thoughts today, because this is really a reflective practice this evening. So as we're doing this renewal practice, I want you to dig into self-reflection. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, because I really want to help you from a renewal perspective. I think we can really strengthen each other in resilience this evening with this. So thoughts on that, Hope, thoughts on that, Mel, thoughts on that, audience. Any quick hits or reflecting?
Hope?
No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was just reflecting on the question, just reflecting, not to just want to just jump out there, but it's definitely a question of reflection, and so that's what I'm doing right now.
Anybody else?
No, I was taking the time to reflect on that too. And that was a really good question. I said yes to the first question because I think that's why there's empowerment. I think that's why there's growth. I think that's why we have affirmations. That's why we have coping skills. I say yes because we can change our mindset development, personal development, and there's always self-discovery. So for that first question, I say yes because of all those things.
That's powerful. Let's hear from the audience. Got some comments coming in. All right. Michelle says, I believe we can direct change by taking the initiative to learn skills that will enhance who we are and ever evolving to our fullest potential. Yes. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else out there, please share with us your thoughts on this first question. And I want us to think about this in a practical way. In a practical way. I begin to think about directing change and how I responded to certain teams and how they engage me in the project leadership that I provide. I would have frustrations on, okay, what's going on? Why is it constantly like this? And I saw myself being more reactionary with other people's stalling behaviors. So I decided to shift my perspective and say, I'm going to direct change by really being more asset-based in my thinking perspective. And as I began to shift the asset-based perspective, then I began to engage them in a way that my energy, what I was bringing to conversation and bringing to meetings really uplifted more. And I began to just honor and respect the space that was in. So presence is everything when you're about directing change. Presence and how you show up in mindset, how you show up in perspective, how you receive others, and the way they show up as well. Dr. Brown says, yes, meditation for me is a practice that helps to bring about change in an area I need to improve. Thank you for sharing that. What is meditation? It means to mutter or to murmur. It's like a record that just goes over and over again to the point where you're constantly hearing it. It's your repeater. It's your mental repeater. Meditation is. And so those are important perspectives that we need to consider. Thank you for sharing that. Charlisa says, yes, I can direct change, that I have the ability, the willingness, and the influence to develop an environment for change to occur. Thank you for sharing that. that part about developing an environment. Yes. Thank you for sharing that. Wonderful responses and wonderful practices. Today, again, this is Tea Time Tuesday. Just want to remind everyone, download the mobile app, please. And please like and share this information. Bring others into our conversation and our Tea Time community this evening. All right, let's keep moving forward with our next one. Renewal practice question number 2. Do you choose in accordance with your preferences now, or do you choose in accordance with the preferences of who you'll become? Read that out loud. Go ahead and say it out loud to yourself. Do I choose in accordance with my preferences now, or do I choose in accordance with the preferences who I will become?
That's good.
Now, that may not be across the board. It might be yes in some areas because we're not our roles. Our roles are part of who we are, but not all roles define us. They're descriptors. I'm a father. I'm a son. I'm a brother. I'm a nephew. I'll just take those roles. So, and I think about those roles, all those roles have a certain value to them. So when we look at our lives, am I choosing in accordance of my preferences now? Yes and no. Am I choosing in accordance with the preferences of who Patrick will become? Yes and no. Let's meditate on that. Hi, Karen. Good to see you on. Welcome to the Tea Time this evening. Anybody else want to share? Hope, what are your thoughts? I see you nod, Mel. I saw you wake up there with that question. Let's take half of this real quick. Let's do a quick round robin on this one, because I think it's important that we look at this one from a perspective. Are you choosing between your references now or who you'll become? Hope, now or later? Thoughts?
Well, I'll say both, but if I was to give a direct answer, I'll say in accordance to who I'm to become.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna come back and ask you why. Mel, Carmela, go ahead.
I'm going to be with Hope on this one. I'm going to start with the latter one. I would say because I'm forward thinking, and I'm thinking I'm making decisions based off of. I'm going to say both, but based off of what I'm evolving into. How is this going to affect me later? So I would say, yeah, because I'm forward thinking, but then it goes back to what we said earlier about that stimuli. Sometimes we do make decisions based off of the moment.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that. We're going to come back here. Michelle says, I choose, but 85% of the time. All right, you put a metric on that thing. 85% of the time, I choose based on who I'll become. Good evening, Monique. Thank you for coming on this evening. Kashmir says, I choose of who I become. Even now, I'm becoming that person. I choose in both, but in certain instances, it's about where I am right now. Right now, I'm a student. So I'm making decisions right where I am, being a student, which means I got to make decisions that students make. It's called studying. It's called discipline.
Okay.
It's called listening. It's called being quiet and learning from others. I'm not becoming a student. I'm always going to be that, but that's where I am because of what I'm becoming, which is a doctoral candidate that's going to defend his dissertation. However, right now, I'm a student. So I'm looking at what's in front of me. And that's fine to look at what's in front of me. So, all right, I'm going to come back to you, Hope. Why did you answer your question? And then, Carmela, why did you answer your question the way that you did? Hope, you go ahead first.
Well, for me, you just made a statement about you being a student now, right? So you being a student now is going to affect who you are becoming to be later.
Yes.
Right. So it's kind of a mix of both. It's like, now I'm doing this because later, eventually, the end game or the end result is you'll be, in your dissertation, and you'll be a doctor. So that the decision right now, it's like, for me, it's like different phases and steps to get to that point. So that's why I choose it right now. What I'm doing right now, making decisions now, is going to affect the outcome of later, of the latter part. So that's why I say both. But then again, I had said, decisions that will affect the future But in reality, what I'm doing right now is going to affect the future state of who I'm becoming.
Mm,
That's
mm.
good.
Again, according to the preferences now, who you'll become. Carmela, go ahead. What was your reason?
Well, it was similar, I think, because with the first part of the question, I would have to be zeroing in on what my decision is for that moment and making a decision pertinent for how that's going to affect what I'm doing at the time. But like I said, because I believe I'm more forward thinking, some of the decisions that I make are because of where I'm going, the direction that I'm going. So if I'm
Mm,
goal driven, I think if I'm vision driven or goal driven, the decisions are based on what is the vision, how am I going to get there. So the strategy part is the second part what we're talking about when you're being forward thinking, but you're going to be razor focused and zeroing in on what's happening now. So you're going to make decisions that's going to determine who you are now, which
mm,
will eventually determine who you're going to who you're going to be down the road. So
mm.
I think both questions are answered yes
Yeah,
for
yeah,
me. That's the
yeah.
reason why.
They're both relevant. They're both right. We can be right, but everybody can be right at the same time. It's
Yeah,
really not about rightness or wrongness as much as it is about where I am and
yeah,
what I like to see happen now and later. Past is gone. Can't change that, but I can impact now and I can impact what's happening later. That makes me think about this phrase that you are subtly different already from the person who started to read this sentence. So the very fact if you're reading this sentence, you're already different from the time we started tea time at 7 p.m.
Oh wow.
So it's because it's constant. You are subtly different already from the person who started to read this sentence. So I want us to just think about these and really consider these potential renewal practices. Why are we covering this today? Because what this will help us do is as you're relating to teams, there are times that all the roles and who you are and your life descriptors and definers and these are things that we got to constantly take time out to do, which is why tea time exists for this type of purpose. So if I was coaching you, I would continue to ask these kinds of questions and we can consider those. And then we would move on and, okay, well, what are you going to do in order for you to experience this transformation? How are you going to create that in your environment? What are you doing to create that in your world? And how are we going to measure that so that we can have measurable progress in reasonable time? But we don't have time for that this evening. What the kind of coaching you got to call us? All right, let's keep going. All right, let's go to our next one. Renewal practice number 3. Am I so distracted that I can no longer pay attention to where I am and where I'm going? Now, I want you to consider this because of the world that we live in that's full of distractions. We're in a world of distractors. We're in an age. So this is just an open-ended question that I want you to consider. Think about it. Distracted people. What happens when we're distracted? Go ahead and answer that. Put that in the comments. So I want us to consider this as a renewal practice. Why? Because we're in a technological, distracting world. And this is to encourage you to set boundaries in your personal space so that you won't be so distracted that you got to be on demand for everyone. No, you do not. You do not have to be on demand for anything or anybody. You can actually say, you know what? This time is my time of peace, my time of calm, my time of relaxation, my time of investing in myself. It might be I'm going to go and walk in my backyard in the woods and just for 30 minutes, I'm going to just be calm. I'm not taking my phone. I'm not taking my headphones. I'm just going to walk and listen to the creation. So I want us to think about this. And you don't have to answer this right now, but I want you to write it in your journal. Am I so distracted that I can no longer pay attention to where I am and where we are going. This is important to us as a human species. It's important to you as an individual. So let's just meditate on that as a renewal practice this evening. And then lastly, now let's move to this one, and we'll open this up for a little bit more dialogue, and then we'll move into our last few renewal practices for this evening. Everyone, please let me know thus far if you can just hashtag I'm renewal. Let us know that you're out there. Let us know that you're engaging. Let us know that there's something that you can apply, that you're benefiting from in this engagement this evening. Renewal practice question number 4: what do you notice about yourself? And we're going to go through some end questions. It's going to be rapid fire delivery, and it's going to be a round robin. But I want us to think about this. What do you notice about yourself? What do you notice about yourself? You don't have to answer that because that's deep, but just sit with this. And I want you to think about this as you go into your next meeting, you go into your next conversation you need to have, you go next into your strategy session, your planning session, your collaborative efforts. What do you notice about yourself when you're in a virtual meeting? What do you notice about yourself when you're in the face-to-face meeting? What do you notice about your body language and your tune or your tone of voice? Mel, what are your thoughts on that? What do you notice about yourself, Carmela? Hope, what do you notice about yourself? I'm gonna sit back here.
Okay, so I'm gonna sit with that one because that I kind of got caught off guard with that one because I'm thinking about what I'm thinking about. How about that?
Okay.
I'm thinking about what I'm thinking.
That's a good place. That's an excellent place.
Yes.
You're thinking about thinking.
Yes.
Hope.
I'm gonna say, as far as that particular question, for me, that is a process of journaling for me. So what I have to do is I'll because I analyze a lot. I watch my behaviors and patterns even in meetings. What's my dominant thoughts? What am I thinking about? Am I engaged? Am I veering off? And then I ask myself, why am I veering off in certain thoughts? Now, in order for that to happen for me, is I need to be self-aware of what's going on. So if I'm in a meeting, I need to be actively live in the meeting, right? So for me, I have to reflect on that just a bit more because that's something that I actually write about even currently. Okay, because I journal on everything, every 30 days, every month about things that I would like to improve. But first, I must be aware of what's going on, if it's affecting me in a positive and negative way. So like when I'm in these meetings, sometimes my mind wanders, especially if you're on Zoom calls all day, Zoom meetings all day, and people are talking, and sometimes your mind is like, okay, I don't really need to be engaged in this part of the meeting, so I'm going to check out just a little bit. So, but it's about being aware that I am checking out.
Yep.
So that awareness for me, that's what works for me. So, I guess I would say I am aware of, what's going on. The question for me is like, why? What am I what am I noticing about myself and why?
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Yes, we need to think through this because, again, the whole goal of our conversation this evening, our renewal practice, is about can you change who you are? And so we're thinking through this. I'm going to follow up on this conversation next Tuesday in our tea time as well as we start out the month of April. I'd like us to really rethink this as well, but we're going to shift this into changing how we think in terms of how we show up in certain spaces, in certain places. And so it's important that we're aware of those. And sometimes we're really not aware because it's so automatic, it's so instant. And so I think the way that we're pausing today in our tea times as well, previously, is to help foster that. So I'd like everyone in the audience, tea timers, again, really think through this. What do you notice about yourself? This is a challenging question because it is very easy to notice everybody else.
It's true.
It's very easy to notice what others are doing or what others are not doing, and then we don't look at who we are. You know, what do they say? Anytime you point your finger to someone else, their finger's pointing back at you. So, you know, well, I got something pointing back at me. I need to really look at noticing myself. So when I say notice yourself, notice your reactions, your responses, your projections, potential biases, certain traditions, noticing what works for you, noticing what works well for you, notice where you thrive, notice where your energy levels are. Is it morning? Is it noon? Is it after? Notice your sleeping patterns. Notice if you're getting enough rest. Notice if I'm a boss, I'll just stay up all night. Everybody needs 8 hours. Every human being needs to refresh themselves. That's part of being human, except for those of you that are supernatural beings. You're so, however, you need to rest. You need to nap. Noticing your sleeping patterns. That's important.
Yeah.
Notice the way that stress builds in certain parts of your body. Notice what gets to you. Noticing yourself is a positive renewal practice, because the end result is going to be growth, especially if you have a mindset that's about really developing who you are.
Yeah.
Karen says, I need to listen to this replay. Thank you for being on this evening, Karen. Please replay and listen to this. I notice that it's okay to pass the baton. Thus, I am refreshed to let another take hold of it. Oh, yes. Thank you. Delegation.
Yes.
Passing it on to others. Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Brown. Appreciate that, Dad. Thank you so much. All right, now I'm going to do another rapid fire here as we're closing up our tea time. We got a few more minutes, so please stay with us, audience tea timers. Stay with us. And I'm going to ask a few questions. I want you to think about this, and whatever immediate answers come up, write them down, and then we'll open it up for quick comments and dialogue. All right, here we go. Boom. What is the most important part of your education? What do people accuse you of? Your favorite word. What do you doubt most? What is happiness? Just 5 change questions, random.
That is rapid fire.
Yes.
While y'all doing that, I'm going to read Nichelle. Nichelle says, I notice I'm an eye contact person, and I get irritated when somebody's speaking to me and looking all over the place. I hear you on that. All right. What is the most important part of your education? What do people accuse you of? What's your favorite word? What do you doubt most? And what is happiness? I'm going to sit here and just let that sit. Anybody hope you want to answer any of those? Carmela, you want to answer any of those? I'll put them back up there. You can choose one.
Okay, I'll take number 1.
Go ahead.
What is the most important part of my education? I would say self-exploration and discovery.
Self-exploration.
I want to learn.
Self.
Yeah.
Say it again. Self. One more time. Say it again.
Me?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Self-exploration and discovery, because I want to learn some new things, learn something new.
All right. So, and discovery. Thank you. We bring up one more thing here. Monique says, I noticed my body language that involve crucial conversations. So what are you noticing about your body language? Thank you for sharing that. Dad, Dr. Brown, hello. Favorite words? This is it. Yes. Keep pressing. Thank you for answering that question. Yes. We bring these questions back up. Hope what you want to share. What is the most important part of education? What do people accuse you of? Your favorite word? What do you doubt most? What is happiness? Anything?
I'll say my favorite word is dig deep. That's my mantra. That's So yeah.
Anybody else want to answer any more of these questions? Michelle says, favorite words, be encouraged. Lisa says, Happiness. All right. What is happiness? What do you doubt most? What is your favorite word? What do people accuse you of? Well, for me, I would say happiness is a good bowl of okra soup or gumbo and a nice cool spring afternoon with a good piece of bread. That's happy for me, man. And then get to the bottom of it and just, I'm a happy camper. So that's happiness for me. All right. Anybody else? Let's see here. My favorite word, Kashmir says love. Monique says the most important part of my education is being pliable and a lifelong learner. No education, I mean teachable. I remain teachable. Yes, you have education. Everybody has education. That just means to be enlightened and to learn. Happiness is food and doing ministry.
All right.
I know that food. Kashmir, I'm with you on that. Happiness for me is that gumbo, that okra soup. I'm good. I'm very good. And it has to be done in the style of my mom. All right, here. What is happiness? Is laughter for me.
Yes.
So why do we ask these kinds of questions this evening? Because we started out with the emphasis this evening about, can you change who you are? You can change who you are by the questions you ask yourself. You change yourself, you can change who you are by the questions that you ask yourself. And why? Because these questions have a way of shining the light on us that says, you don't know everything. It sheds the light on, there's still space to grow.
Yes.
It sheds a light on that you can still begin new.
Yes.
So those are positive things that come, asset-based things that come out of these types of questions in our renewal practice this evening. So I wanted to take the time for us to think through questions. And just before we close out, just want to offer two more closing thoughts. Personal change. When you're through changing, you're through. When you're through changing, you're through. Organizational change. Change becomes necessary when a methodology is no longer effective.
That's good.
So I just want you to walk away with those things as it relates to your life, your organizational life, your business, perhaps your connections, your relationships, your friendships, so that we can think through these questions, these renewal questions today. Can you change who you are? Okay, Hope and Carmela, any last thoughts just on your takeaways from our renewal practice this evening and from our audience? What are some of your takeaways today? Some of your insights, things that you're saying, okay, I'm going to reconsider this or think through that as we give our final thoughts.
Well, my takeaway is from the first initial question is, can I change? And then for me, the takeaway from that is I have to be aware that change is needed. And I have to be aware of what needs to change and how it's going to change. So the awareness for me is power. If I'm not aware of anything needing to be changed, how can I embrace and implement change and transformation in my life? So for me, that was the opening question is, can I change? And for me, that answer for me, this is my, my feedback that I got, that I have to be aware of that there's a change that is needed. And then I can move on to the other parts of, why there's a change and how am I going to implement change by asking the questions that you posed tonight. But the first step for me in changing is being aware that a change is needed. And that actually change is happening. Sometimes we don't realize it, but the awareness is power to know where I am at the current time, in the current moment, in the current point of my life, that change is necessary for me to continue to grow and develop and evolve in who I am in the present state and the future state.
Thank you. Carmela.
Well, I like the fact that we were challenged today to become more self-aware and to understand that we are moved by stimuli, because sometimes we don't really think that, in the moment, that we're making decisions in the moment and how that's going to affect us in the moment. Or we can decide, what decisions am I making that's, I would say, future, for future. And so I've learned a lot tonight. This has been really engaging to me. It puts me back in a place of self-awareness and asking questions. Well, what am I thinking? What am I doing? And, all of these things, like you said, that we're using to build resilience, because can help me become better in making decisions and understanding where I am.
Thank you. Thank you both for your engagement, and thank the audience, those of you that are out there, again, for your engagement. And as one last renewal answer, please go ahead and place in the chat, in the comments, what are your takeaways and applications from today's renewal practice? We would love to hear from you, because that's one thing that we do to foster resilience. As you're doing that, I just want to invite everyone. Today is Giving Tuesday here at the Renewal Center. Today is Giving Tuesday here at the Renewal Center. And so I'd like you to consider the Renewal Center and join us in this giving season as we give together. You can go to our website at www.renewalcenters.com/give to support the Renewal Center. Here are the ways that you can support the RC, our vision to reveal Christ, to renew minds, to restore lives, and to reform culture. And here, as a nonprofit organization here in North Carolina, we want to encourage you to consider us as part of your Giving Tuesday. Please download the mobile app from your app store. You can support the Renewal Center through our website. You can text to give as well. If you text Renewal Center to 888-364-4483. We also have CashApp, PayPal, the Venmo, and Zelle. And also you can mail your check or your money order to the Renewal Center. So definitely want to encourage you to think through and can consider us as part of your support in giving to the Renewal Center. One of the key things about the Renewal Center, we are really focusing on hospitality, really focusing on renewing, really focusing on what we can be and how we can function in terms of helping others refresh and renew themselves. So you have been one that says, wow, Tea Time has been a strength to me. It's been an add-on to my life. I'm learning, I'm gleaning, I'm being renewed, I'm engaging in renewal practices. We ask that you consider making a contribution in this Giving Tuesday to the Renewal Center. And also, of course, pay us a visit. Share this Tea Time with others. Let others know about the Renewal Center so that you can be a part of who we are and what we do in achieving that mission. If you see that vision and align with that mission, we would like you to be a part of that. So please consider making a contribution. We are a nonprofit organization, and we appreciate your support here at the RC. All right. So again, if you're out there, please share with us. What are your takeaways? What are your thoughts? Any other announcements? I'll put those up on the screen here shortly. I do want to say that coming up in April 27th through the 29th, we have our 4th Carolina Prophetic Gathering. This is part of our Revealing Christ vision for the Renewal Center. And our focus this year is In Sync with Christ. It's going to be here in Charlotte at the Harvest Center. All right. So we're going to drop that information there in the chat, and you can click on the actual link. Registration is $99 for 3 days of our gathering. Please, you can connect with us through the renewalcenters.com, through our mobile app, as well as its registration there on the screen. So Hope or Carmela, you want to share a little bit about just the gathering itself? Anything you want to share about that, just to really help people understand the power of our synergy at the gathering?
Well, yes, there's a powerful connection this is our 4th Carolina Prophetic Gathering, and it's just been growing and growing. We've been learning. Last year, it was a contextual leader, and I'm telling you, it's such a download. Every year, it just expands, it grows, we learn, and there's so much to glean. I encourage everyone to go ahead and register, get your ticket, because God has something for you, for each and every one of us at this particular gathering. And then invite some other people, share the flyers with others. I'm telling you, over the last few years, we've had incredible speakers. And this year, we have a great lineup as well that we're taking the time to prepare ourselves for the prophetic gathering. So I'm excited, and I hope that you will come and be a part of it with us.
Thank you. Hope anything you want to share about the gathering?
Sure. I just concur with Carmela about the gathering. They have been phenomenal each and every year. We are meeting in person, so this is just going to be so powerful. We will be in Charlotte, and this is a time that you can come and even engage in receiving impartation about being in sync with Christ, according to Galatians 5:25. And so this is going to be phenomenal. These are some great rich speakers that will be releasing. And I'm just honored to be a part of it as well. And so if you can't make it, you know what, you can also still sow a seed for someone else who can make it as well, so that we can continue to move forward in this year's fourth Carolina prophetic gathering, in sync with Christ. This is going to be absolutely amazing, and you don't want to miss it. You have time to register, and we place that information here on the screen for you to register as well. Go ahead, get registered, be ready, and be prepared as we come together and fellowship. So looking forward to the fellowship and the gathering of us coming together and being empowered, being enlightened, and being renewed, when we leave there with just a fresh perspective on the things that God is doing. So this is going to be a phenomenal time, and we invite you to come and fellowship and be a part of this phenomenal gathering, that has been put us together so that we can all be in sync together. So we invite you to be there.
Thank you so much, team. We appreciate it. And again, thanks everyone for being on. Just before we close out, I want to just respond to a few takeaways. Monique says, embracing change welcomes new opportunities to grow and learn in all areas of my life. Thank you for sharing that. Trelisa says, takeaway, change is ever evolving, can be immediate, necessary to stay relevant and ever growing. Thank you for sharing that. Michelle says, I'm going to hone in on what distracts me and eliminate those distractions. Thank you very much for sharing. So thanks everybody for being part of it. Want to remind you, tomorrow here at the Renewal Center in our Reforming Culture, we have our time of prayer at 7:30 tomorrow. So want to be part of that, please download the mobile app. You can register as well. And we'll see you next Tuesday at noon. And please stay around for some announcements at the end of our tea time this evening. And again, as we say, take care of each other. And I am Renewal. Have a very good evening. See you soon.